During the APC, your diary entries form a crucial part of your submission, as this records the number of days experience you have gained for each of your chosen competencies. We can see from this diary example, the candidate in question appears to have a shortfall in experience against the quantification and costing competency, and this would highlight a potential weakness in this area to their interview panel. So during this tutorial, we'll explain how you can avoid having shortfalls such as this, and explain how to populate your diary entries. And this will ultimately convey that you have gained a broad range of experience and make a good first impression on the assessors. Now, before sitting your final assessment, depending on your route to entry, the RICS will require you to record either 200 or 400 days experience. But please bear in mind that these are the minimum requirements, and I would highly recommend aiming to exceed the minimum number of days by a margin of around 15 to 20%. And this is recommended to give you the best possible chance of making a good first impression on the interview panel. So as we work through this video, we'll provide some more in-depth guidance on how best to complete your APC diary, whilst also explaining some of the common mistakes you should look to avoid. Remember, the diary record is a crucial part of the APC, so by the end of this tutorial, you will know what the RICS requires from your diary submission, and how many days experience you will need to record before sitting your final assessment. You will also know how to populate your diary and upload these to the Assessment Resource Centre. More importantly, know how to avoid having any shortfalls in particular competencies. Whilst I can't claim to be an expert or an APC assessor, I'm only speaking from my own experience of the APC and having helped a number of colleagues pass their APC over the last few years, and I really hope you find this video useful. The diary template we'll be using during this video is also available as a free download from the link in the description below, and this does also include a CPD log, a summary of experience template, and this is all contained in one master document to save time and energy having to maintain multiple documents. There is also a complete step-by-step guide that you can use as a checklist to break down the APC into manageable activities as you progress each month. So without further ado, let's take a look at the minimum requirements the RICS look for from your APC diary submission. The RICS Candidate Guide advises that the APC diary applies to all candidates who are undertaking their APC via structured training routes of either 12 or 24 months. The minimum requirements for your diary entries are that if you have less than 5 years industry experience, you will need to undertake structured training for a minimum of 24 months, which means that you will need to acquire a minimum of 400 days experience within your diary and 96 hours of CPD. Whereas if you have over 5 years experience, you will need to undertake structured training for a minimum of 12 months, which means you will need to acquire a minimum of 200 days experience within your diary and 48 hours of CPD. But I need to stress here that these are the minimum requirements and we should aim to exceed these, as carrying out the minimum requirements will not convey the best first impression on your interview panel. First of all, when setting up your diary, you can enter the competency titles that are specific to your pathway. You will also need to select the duration of your structured training route of either 1 or 2 years. This will then auto-populate the number of total days experience and total hours of CPD that are required. You also need to enter your APC enrolment date, and the diary template will then auto-populate between weekdays and weekends to support with populating your entries. For the diary log, you need to record your day-to-day experience and which competency you're recording against. For example, on the QS pathway, if we had produced a cost plan, we could allocate this against the design economics and cost planning competency. The time recorded needs to be either in full or half days, and we also need to record the correct level that you are undertaking. For example, level 1 is knowledge based, level 2 is practical experience, and level 3 is where you've provided advice to your clients. We can also make reference to the client or the project title, and then include a brief description of the work that has been undertaken. After this has been carried out for a number of months, we can then use the information generated to track our experience against each of the competencies and look to identify and address any shortfalls in experience. For example, this candidate is lacking experience in the quantification and costing competency, and they should discuss with their counsellor and supervisor how they can gain more experience in this area. I did also do a much more in-depth video on populating the summary of experience and how to address shortfalls such as this, which I'd really recommend watching. For the CPD entries, these need to record the type of CPD that's been undertaken. For example, whether this is a training course, private study, or on-the-job training. We also need to record the number of hours of the activity and whether this was formal or informal. For the CPD to be classed as formal, there needs to be clearly defined learning objectives at the start of the CPD. Normally, formal CPD is undertaken within an organised setting, such as a training course with an assessment element,